can describe you, ma'am, because personality, your knowledge is so high and varied in all the fields. If I were supposed to read your biodata, I'm sure it will run into pages. And in one word, if I can try to just tell you in an innovative way, you are an educational all-rounder, innovative doctor. This is what I have coined for you, who knows each and every aspect of education from all its sides. Pia ma'am is a faculty for world cultures, a bridge builder with 24 years of experience in the fields of investment banking and finance, transformational ethics, cultural sensitization, HR intervention, millennial management, sustainability themed living and life skills. She's a corporate trainer with 19 years of experience, teacher with 22 years experience. She is writer for International Mothers Block, The Speaking Tree, and other mainstream publications since last 30 years. She has not left any field unexplored, always enthusiastic, carrying a smile on her face, transforming all her positive energy to others with high motivation and patience. I think to hear from such a personality is like hugging your dreams towards completion. It's our fortune to have you among us, and truly I feel so. With this note, I would really apologize, Pia ma'am, if I have missed out on some of your achievements, but really I thank you on behalf of the LLE department of VS Art Science and Commerce College to accept our invitation and take your precious time to help us understand how to change our habits. Stage is all yours, ma'am. Sorry to interrupt you in between.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you so much, Professor Meenal Gandhi. And this was an extremely generous introduction. No apologies needed. In fact, I should be saying that I don't know if I'm really worthy of all the very, very wonderful adjectives that you've used. I simply call myself a seeker. And yes, you're right. I'm very passionate about sharing what I've learned. So in that respect, I think the whole Westlark team, we have this common thing. We're like little children when it comes to very enthusiastically wanting to share something that we have learned with other people. So that's where maybe our energy really comes from. So thank you. And I say this thanks on behalf of the team, because very honestly speaking, one individual can't make that much of a difference unless everybody is working with synergy. So touchwood, I think in VES, we are all very blessed to have
True,
that kind
true,
of
ma'am.
support.
Yeah,
So
the umbrella itself is one which will make us do things. True.
absolutely, absolutely. And that is what keeps you going. That is what keeps you motivated from inside, in spite of the challenges. And all of us know what the last year was like. So no further words have to be said about that. So thank you so
True.
much, ma'am. And
Yeah.
thanks again to your department for considering this particular topic. I'll just share with the faculty members before sharing with the students that this topic is something very close to our hearts. And within Westlark, when we've had discussions and meetings, we kept pondering about how you can actually help students to change habits, because students know what they have to do. They're intelligent and smart enough. They know that, okay, we're supposed to wake up early, we're supposed to do some exercise or whatever, we have to attend classes in a certain way. But there's a gap between knowing and doing. So we kept asking ourselves that how do we help them with strategies which help them bridge that gap? So today's session is all about that. So students, at the outset itself, let me tell you how we have planned the flow. We'll take the next few minutes, perhaps 30 minutes, 40 minutes or so for the session itself. And I'll be showing you some slides on this with very simple guidelines, not too much to read really, but simple guidelines. And you'll be doing a couple of exercises which are introspective exercises, okay? So students, we're going to look forward to your answers in the chat box. Please use the chat box to share your answers, because this session actually draws its fuel from your inputs. That is how it goes. And then towards the end, we'll keep a few minutes for questions and answers. So in case you have any questions about this topic and you would like to raise that, again, you can use the chat box and raise your question. We'll be more than happy to help you out. See, we don't promise, Westlark doesn't promise to know all the answers, but we commit towards guiding you towards the right direction so that you can help figure out the answers. So that is where we're coming from, so that you are empowered, because at the end of the day, students, you're the reason why all of us are here, and you're the reason why we feel very happy and enthusiastic to share these inputs. So with that introduction, let me also share for those of us who are interacting with Westlark for the first time, You would be aware we are a very young sister institute within the VES family. And along with such workshops, we also have counseling for our students of VES for the colleges. So if any of you know somebody, for example, or you yourself would like to talk to a counselor, just get your thoughts sorted, etc., please feel free to do that. So on the chat, you can actually see Anushka ma'am, our executive manager, has put up the details of our contact email ID and our number. Please just reach out to us if you need help. She has also mentioned the YouTube channel, which we have started. So you can always just join in case you are doing that, but we don't recommend too much of social media. But then healthy things, yeah, you can take them in the right doses. So with that note, let's move ahead from here. And again, students, I repeat, please feel free to jot down your questions right now and ask us at the end of the session, where we'll be taking you through some of the main points again as a recap. So let me take you into the topic that we have for today, how we change our habits. Anushka, is this visible on the screen?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you. So this is what we're talking about today. And this transition from the old to the new, it's easier said than done. So let me tell you how we've structured it. Initially, you'll be doing a small exercise on what are the habits we need to change. After that, I'll be sharing with you about a dozen guidelines. And then finally, we have a couple of last slides on the concluding thoughts. That is how the flow of the talk is going to be. So without taking more of your time, students, let me straight away ask, what would be 3 habits which you really want to change in your life? Think about that for a moment. And out of those 3 things, choose one thing which you really want to change. You feel irritated by that habit. Maybe it's a habit you want to drop, something that you have as an existing pattern of behavior that you want to drop, or it is a habit that you want, meaning it's a good habit that you want, but you want to change an old habit and give way to the new. So for example, not getting up late and getting up early in the morning. This is one example I'm sharing with you. So we're going to take a few moments, pause at this point of time, and I'm going to pause my talking. Students, please use the chat box and write one habit that you strongly feel you want to change. So I repeat that. First, think of 2 or 3 things, but then consolidate that, distill that down to one habit, a single habit. Okay? So take a few moments and just use your self-awareness.
The answers have started coming in.
Okay?
I don't want to check my phone as soon as I wake up.
Mm-hmm.
Laziness in every single thing.
Mm-hmm.
As of now, 2 have come.
Okay. Good. That's very
Late,
honest. Yeah. Sorry, didn't catch that, Anushka. Sorry.
late wake up.
Okay.
Overthinking. Discontinuity. Trusting people easily. Anger. Giving up. Distraction. Always smiling. Oversleeping. Getting fear before starting anything new. To be able to study for longer hours. As of now, these have come.
Excellent. Again, we were very right when we were discussing with the professors about the emotional maturity of the students. Well done, students. I must say that this is very commendable. You have displayed not just a lot of self-awareness when you describe these traits, you've also displayed, I would say, a lot of courage, because it's not easy to talk about who we are and what we need to change in front of a large group. To be able to do that requires some amount of objectivity, where we don't feel very tied down to these aspects of our personality. So well done for that. This is a very interesting list of points which have come up. Any more, Anushka?
Yes, ma'am. Fear of interacting with new faces, anger, overthinking, helping everyone, trusting people easily.
Okay. Okay. All good ones. I think we'll take the discussion ahead. The other students, don't worry in case you haven't been able to come up with answers right now, because this was just a very quick exercise. You can always think about this later and dwell on it. The first thing that I'm going to suggest to everybody is to remember you're not alone in this journey. Now, the picture that I've taken here, although it's from Indian mythology, this is about a little story which relates to the Mahabharata, where once Sri Krishna was having a conversation with Duryodhan, and Duryodhan very candidly said, I know what I should be doing, but I can't seem to do it. And I know what I shouldn't be doing, but I can't seem to stop myself from doing it. So what we need to do is, it's not that we are Duryodhans and we need a Sri Krishna in our lives personally, although it would be wonderful to have that sort of a coach for each one of us. More importantly, it's about knowing that all of us have our struggles with what we call Rajas and Tamas. So you need to firstly know that you are not alone when it comes to facing these challenges in this journey. So those of you, for example, who've talked about anger, although it has come up only twice, I'm fairly certain this is more common to some more students as well. Maybe it didn't come to your mind at that point of time, but this is common. Similarly, the student who's talked about laziness or perhaps oversleeping. Again, it's not that the rest of us are all 100% dynamic when it comes to our work. So what we need to do is, the first thing, reassure ourselves, you are fine the way you are right now for now. Please note the words right now, you are fine the way you are. Doesn't mean that we sit back with laziness and complacence, but yes, we first accept ourselves for who we are, because that is how our successful journey really starts. When we are in denial, when we want to wear a mask, when we want to pretend, nay, nay, everything is fine with me, that is where the problem really happens. So typically when we run this exercise, some of the things which come up when we ask our students, one is this, which is anger, then about waking, about sleeping habits, about being defensive, about being critical, judgmental, about being harsh on oneself, being overthinking, over analytical, binging on junk food, this also comes up. Being a slave to technology, like one of the answers, one of the students has mentioned, seeing the phone right in the morning. And finally, any kind of addiction. This could be either an actual addiction, such as substance abuse, it could be about gaming, it could be about something as simple and insidious as being on Instagram for a long time in the day, or binging on Netflix or Amazon Hotstar or any of the OTT models that are there. Any of that represents a hijacking of the brain. So these are the common examples that we really find when we talk to people. This is across the spectrum, not just when it comes to students, but even when it comes to those who are older. So let's take up some of the points which have come up just now in the chat, and let's try and tackle some of them. I'm going to go in random order. I've jotted down the points that were shared. So for example, one of the very interesting things which came up, a student has mentioned fear of doing new things. What I want to tell you is, this fear is a normal fear. It is actually linked to the Darwinian survival mode, you would say. So this is there as part of what we call our amygdala. It's part of our primitive brain. Now, why am I going into neuroscience here? It is just to assure you that the fear is normal. Don't ever stop with the fear. The next thing you need to do is, okay, I'm afraid. Now, what do I do about it? So sit down with pen and paper, analyze what it is that you need to do. So any new action, let's say in class, your professor asks who would like to volunteer for something. And part of your mind is thinking, wow, this sounds good. It's maybe a nice opportunity to learn. But part of your mind is thinking, oh God, will I be able to manage my time? Or I'm not so good at talking to people. Or will I be able to persuade others? Or I don't know what all this is going to involve. And that part of your mind holds sway over the first part. Now, that is where we need to be careful. The problem is not the fact that we have self-doubt. Self-doubt is going to be an instinctive part of survival training. Please understand. Our innate human capacity training, self-training for survival will have doubts and fears come up. A successful person knows how to handle those doubts. That's the only difference. So You are already halfway into the journey. You just need to go the remaining steps where you need to ask, okay, let me analyze with pen and paper. What is it that I'm planning to do? What do I hope to gain from that? And how will I then convert that into action? And then for each fear that comes up, address it. How will I manage my time? Ask yourself in terms of chunks of time how you can work things out. How will I persuade people? Make a plan and a strategy. If I'm working in maybe a club committee for 10 students or something like that, these are the people, this is how I'm going to tackle. This is how I use my logic. This is how I use my competence. If I'm wondering how will all of this fall into my life as a new initiative, again, ask yourself, what am I going to get to learn and share? And use that as your lever. So every time there is fear, greet the fear. Don't make the fear something that makes you close all the doors and windows of the house and step away from those opportunities. Greet the fear. Open the door of your mind and say, hello, fear. Good that you're here. Come, let's sit down and analyze. And you are going to help me get cleverer with my strategy. So I found this to be a very interesting point that came up. And I really congratulate the student who's mentioned this, because like I said, it calls for a very high degree of self-awareness along with a lot of courage. Aligned with this is fear of new faces. Again, let me assure you, this is common and it is Darwinian in nature. It's literally survival based. Because in the past, if you look at Paleolithic era, 10,000 years ago, humans had to know the people in their tribes, and any new face, meaning a stranger, represented danger. Now, what we need to do is, when our primitive brain is giving us this response, like we said just now, greet the fear and understand that, yes, this person is not a threat to me. This person may be neutral in future or could even turn out to be someone who becomes a friend for me. So it doesn't matter if you're put into a new group of 5 students or 10 students or 50 students or 500 students. Now, some of you will be thinking at this point, we've just heard ma'am's introduction and it's so easy for Pia ma'am to make these statements because she's got a lot of experience. But I was once there in the same place where you are today. And surprise, surprise, I happen to be an introvert. I'm not an extrovert, which meant any initiative when it comes to working with people is me yanking myself out of my comfort zone. And you can imagine this is what I've been predominantly doing. Investment banking was a very short stint for me. So please believe me, students, when I say it's very doable. You just have to tap into that happiness that you get from doing the new things, learning new things, sharing new things. And yes, the fear will come up until it becomes lesser and lesser in time. But when it does, learn to see it as a good friend. Learn to see it as something that makes you aware that, yes, I have to be careful about certain things. So let's say you're going to meet a new group of people for the first time. You're invited to give a talk as a student representative, and there are new faces, new people whom you don't know. Do a little bit of homework, do some preparation, put in some thought, plan your material, and then give your best energy forward. You're going to find that people are sweeter than what you think they are. So I can assure you on this. And again, the student who's mentioned the fear of new faces, truly I commend you for having that self-awareness and also for sharing it with the group. These were extremely interesting points which came up. Another student has given a very interesting point, wanting to change your hours of study and wanting to be able to study for longer hours. Now, there are 2 things I'll mention for that. Yes, it is good to have a certain duration of time for study, but smart work is more important than mere hard work. So don't fall into the trap of thinking that you're being more sincere or a better student simply because you're sitting with your books or your laptop or whatever else for many hours. That is a trap. How are you being productive? So in Westlac seminars for time management, we use an acronym called ROTI. This is not the eating roti. It stands for ROTI, return on time invested. Meaning, when you sit to study, let's say it's for 1 hour. Ask yourself at the end of 1 hour, how much will I finish? Am I just going to be reading 5 pages? Or am I going to be mastering those 5 pages? Will I be practicing something? Like suppose there are some numericals or something related to some sort of practical application. Will I be practicing something? Ask yourself specifically what is the outcome in the next 45 minutes or 1 hour when you sit for a session. Right now, for example, you're sitting and listening. Ask yourself when you get up and walk away at the end of the session, what should be that one thing or two thing which hopefully you find useful and you're able to pick up. That is what is meant by roti. It's a conscious, aware, deliberate choice that this is my outcome after 1 hour or half an hour or 2 hours or whatever it is. So that's one part of the story, that learn to work smart. So it's not always that you have to study very long hours. And again, I'm sharing this from personal experience. By God's grace, I had university ranks in my school and college years up to my TY BCom, and in my MBA, I topped all the 4 semesters, but I'm not one of those padhaku students. What you call the scholar type, waking up at 4 in the morning and 5 in the morning. I've never done that. So I'd wake up at a normal time and then go to sleep also at a normal time. Never stayed up in the night because that's not my constitution, my body constitution. But I'd be very efficient with my time usage, and I did all extracurricular activities. So it's not even that it was all about studies. So the thing is, if you are efficient with your time, you can actually give yourself a lot of breathing space, get more focused. When you sit to read even a page, ask yourself, what am I learning? What is this author trying to say? What is this textbook trying to tell me? If I'm reading an article somewhere, what is my main takeaway from this? And then you start building on that, okay, could I challenge this? Can there be exceptions to this? What are the applications, etc.? That's how we learn to think. So surprise, surprise, you learn that intelligence is something that can actually grow with time. It's not that our IQ is static and the number of IQ percentage points we are born with is what stays. There is a term called neuroplasticity, which means our brains are malleable. So that is good news for all of us out here, because otherwise many of us feel, oh my God, so-and-so is such a good student and I am not. And we start comparing and then we feel small and low. So now onwards, you can just shed those labels which don't serve you well and tell yourself, okay, I think I've got a lot of potential. It's up to me to decide how much of that potential I want to convert into reality. Moving ahead from here, some of you have spoken about trust related issues, then about discontinuity, about giving up, which is related to persistence, about laziness, then waking up late, etc. So I'm going to take them in 2-3 points. I'm just going to club some of them and take them up now. When it comes to sleeping, there can be multiple reasons. One could be that you are using too much of technology, which can overstrain the brain as well as the eyes. The other could be an actual physical issue. So for example, students with anemia, for example, I know a lot of girl students with anemia, that can cause fatigue. Then sometimes there are thyroid disorders, meaning there's an actual issue in the body. The third reason of sleepiness is typically demotivation, meaning a person at whatever stage in life, could be a student, could be a grown-up, doesn't feel that need, that urge to bounce out of the bed and to do things. Now, please note, when we say bounce, don't take me literally. Again, I'm not one of those bouncing out of bed kinds, but the thing is, you look forward to each day with gratitude. And when you open your eyes, you say a little prayer that I'm fortunate to be alive here. And if I'm alive, it means the divine still has some purpose for me. I still have things to do. So with that little prayer of gratitude, and knowing that not everyone who goes to sleep opens their eyes in the morning, we get up and we get moving through the day. But what is the main thing which keeps us moving through the day, which stops us from oversleeping, which makes us wake up early in the morning? The answer to that is having a dream, which then becomes your goal. So students, this is the hidden secret that I just want to share on behalf of Westlark's team with all of you today. Whenever you're wondering, how do I increase my focus? So for example, a student who said that you get distracted easily, if you convert that around, you realize what you want is focus. Or when you say you are lazy, you convert that around, what you want is dynamism. You realize the common thread to all of this is motivation. And how does that motivation happen? It's from having a dream in front of you and then converting that dream to a goal. So the dream can be anything, that, okay, after the pandemic is over, I want to go traveling to places, or I want to help my parents. I have seen them work hard, so it's now my turn to start earning a living, maybe after some years, once I complete my master's, and I want to give them something, I want to give them a break, or I want to take them on a holiday somewhere. Your dreams are your dreams. You may have very big dreams. I know students who say we want to start a restaurant or we want to have our own business. I know one student who said, I want to travel to at least 80 countries before I die, and that's a huge number. Now, the thing is, your dream is something that makes you filled with that passion and purpose, which gets you moving. And that is what gets you out of the bed in the morning. That is what stops you from oversleeping. That is what makes you focused when your mind is going into 50 different directions, because you want to focus on that online lecture in class for college, because you know those marks make a difference to your overall grades, and your overall grades make a difference to your masters, and your masters makes a difference to the job or your business, whatever it be. So the thing is, you have to first start at the horizon and work backwards from there. What do I want? In some years' time, what is it that I want? Now, students, when I ask them this question, I get replies like, I want certain material things. Wonderful. You may want the latest of mobiles, laptops, no problem. But think bigger, dream bigger. Then they say, okay, we want to travel, which is lovely. We want to help our parents, even better. And then they say, some students start saying, we want to make a difference in society. And that's when we applaud and we said, now you're getting somewhere. Because a big dream will motivate you with much, much more and change your life and make you a catalyst for the better. And in that process, your name, fame, money, happiness, everything is a part of the deal. So please understand this common theme, students, for many of the points which came up in habits. It is motivation. And you've got to figure out your dreams, because there we or anyone else can't help you. Not even your parents, who are your biggest well-wishers, can help you. Not your best friends, not your siblings, not anybody. You have to know what is it that excites you and pulls you forward. It's like how a magnet pulls forward iron filings. And then you convert them to goals. And all of you know that because I'm sure you've read enough, or maybe you have studied in college. A goal is a concrete plan, whereas a dream is abstract, and a dream can be very unrealistic. Whereas a goal, you might have heard of the SMART acronym. So for example, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time bound. So that's a SMART model for goal planning. We have all of those frameworks. You just need to Google it out on the internet. Don't do it right now, but you know what I'm talking about. Once all this is there in place, you know what your dreams are, and then you tell yourself, okay, in the next 2 years or the 3 years that are coming up now, this is what I want to achieve. Watch yourself after that and see the difference. The stronger your clarity that this is what I want in life, the easier it's going to be for you to wake up at the right time, go to sleep at the right time, not oversleep, stay focused and not get distracted, and many other things follow from there. Let me come to the point about anger. And this is a common thing. I'll be talking specifically about Indian guideline in this context. So when I show you the slides, I'll talk about this particular point over there. Persistence, and that's the opposite of giving up too easily, is also something which comes in when you have your dreams in mind. I'll give you a small example from Westlark's history. When we were created by our former late mentor, Shri Keswani sir, who's now no more, it was a dream in his eye to have some institute in VS which would give students more than just textbook learning and help them become emotionally strong. But when he asked me to be founder director, I asked him how. He just smiled and said, it's up to you to decide. So I did what any good MBA does. I looked around for examples. And hey, I discovered there were none. So there was no NGO doing what we were doing. There was no educational institute that was doing what we were doing. There was no company doing what we were doing. So in all the different domains, wherever I looked, there was no such framework or model. So he said, okay, let's create one. Now, right now, in retrospect, that sounds easy, but the first 4 to 5 years were extremely challenging because none of us had a clue which way to go forward, how to persuade people, how to make people understand that mind is important, emotions are important, holistic wellness is important, students need to be trained, teachers need to be trained. So it took a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of experiments, and a lot of trial and error for all of this to take shape. And today we've reached a place where typically in a year, we are reaching out to around 9,000 to 10,000 students. In fact, in the pandemic year, touchwood, by God's grace, we've managed to reach a really large number, completely with the support of all our VES sister institutes. So the thing is, persistence is when you have that vision with you, which says giving up is not an option. Otherwise, we are going to give up. It's very easy to give up. It's very easy to withdraw and blame the circumstances in the environment. It's very easy not to innovate. but to innovate calls for that dream and that vision that yes, karna hai. If you want to do it, one reason is all that you need. As they say, now, if you don't want to do something, you'll have 100 reasons. But to do something, you just need one reason that yes, we want to do. In our case, it was very simple. I had been teaching business ethics for a long time. Keswani sir hooked me in and pulled me in by simply saying, Piaji, why are our young students depressed at such young ages? What is it we are doing wrong as a society? And that was a question that got me thinking. And I was a national level corporate trainer at that time. And turning away from all of that was, it seemed like an act of lunacy to a lot of my friends and well-wishers. But the point is, we stayed persistent. Our entire team, we stayed persistent because giving up was not an option. For us, student was at the center, the fulcrum of everything. And we said, what is it that we need to do which will help our student be more than just somebody who walks away with a degree, who is strong from the mind? So this is the example I wanted to share with you all students. Have the vision, you will find most other things will fall into place. I'll also briefly touch upon two of the points which came up, helping others too much. And this is correlated with smiling a lot. Helpfulness and smiling are both nice things, but provided you keep it within boundaries. And especially this is true in the Indian culture and even more so for women. At the risk of sounding making a stereotypical statement, I'm saying it is difficult for Indian women particularly to draw boundaries and say, okay, I can't do this or I will not be doing this beyond a point. The helpfulness and the smiles are always there because we're seeking social approval because that's how we've been brought up and trained. We need to know it's all right to put your foot down and say, okay, this is what I can handle, no more than this. So helpfulness also has to have boundaries because otherwise it simply means we are needy. We are trying to get validation for ourselves. Then it is no longer helpfulness if it is at the cost of one's own well-being. Similarly, if the smiling is not coming from the heart, in the heart there are tears, but on the face there is a smile, then somewhere there is some resolution to be done, something that needs to be addressed, some gap which needs to be bridged. Think about that, dwell on it and reflect on it. It is initially uncomfortable to start doing these. In fact, I just thought of this point today afternoon, some time ago, right before lunch. I had a late lunch today. I got an email from somebody who wanted to reach out after several years in order to ask for some advice. And I know typically most people will say that we want 15 minutes of your time or 20 minutes of your time. But the conversations can go on for 1 hour, 1.5 hours, sometimes 2 hours. And I'm one of those people who will be too polite to say that now I need to go forward into other things. So I'll end up then postponing my commitments and maybe even jeopardizing my other timetable plans. So I just had to write to that person and say that right now my timelines are busy. Why don't you share in this platform itself what is it that you need? And I'll reply to you and we'll see what to do and how to connect. There was that momentary twinge of guilt that I felt when I wrote that, because this is a person who's known me several years back. And then I told myself, it's all right. I am still helping, but I'm helping now on my terms. I don't need that person's validation to feel like I'm a good human being, quote unquote. At the same time, I'll make sure I give my best, whatever way I can, but I will not do it by compromising on my lunch or dinner. So this is what I meant about helpfulness and being a smiling person. The last point to pick up here was about, there was a point which had come up, discontinuity. So this is typically, again, a mind which is scattered. So when we talk about the Indian guidelines, we'll come to it. This happens, and I'll give you a clue. A big reason it happens is because of technology. Our smartphones especially have done so much of damage to our brains, we're not even aware of it. But I'll take us ahead and then we'll go into the actual guidelines. So students, let's take a look at a few guidelines. I'm going to show you, like I said, a dozen. The first thing to understand is, if you want to add a good habit, you will have a different strategy. If you want to drop an old bad habit, you will have a different strategy. Very simple thing. If you want to add a good habit, choose an existing habit which you're already doing and tag this new thing along with it. I'll give you an example to illustrate this. Suppose some of you want to do pranayam every day because somebody like us has told you that if you do pranayam, your mental clarity is better, your physical immunity is better, you will not make silly mistakes in exams, you will not get angry that fast, you will stay calm. So you say, okay, I want to do pranayam. but then how to do, when to do. And it's like while thinking itself, the days go by. What you do is you ask yourself that, okay, in the morning, what are my morning chores? You get up, you go to the washroom, you brush your teeth, you freshen up, etc. Catch yourself at that point and say, okay, the moment I'm out of the bathroom, I'm going to sit down and do my pranayam. After I finish brushing my teeth, I will sit down and do my pranayam. You decide the slot. So your strategy for adding a new habit is make it right piggyback with an existing habit. I call that the engine and the bogie syndrome. So like how in a train, you have one engine and then you have so many bogies which get pulled along with the engine, by the engine. The same way, you have an existing good habit and you can keep attaching other small new good habits with it. For a bad habit that you want to drop, the strategy is different. Substitute with something better. And when we say better, I'll share with you a funny incident. Some months back, I was having a conversation. So someone in his 30s, I know, a man who smokes, told me very happily that, man, I have stopped smoking cigarettes. I said, wow, wonderful, congratulations. He said, yeah, now I take chewing gum. So I was like, okay, face palm moment. I said, it's good you've moved away from the nicotine, but chewing gum is also not great. So he said, yeah, I kind of figured that out, but I want something. So he was trying to say that he needs a substitute. So then we talked about other substitutes and we said how you can have subtler substitutes. You don't always have to eat something or pop something into your mouth. You can go for a walk. You can take a small 2-minute pranayam break. You can gaze out of the windows for 2 minutes. You can have a little gulp of water or sip some water or some such thing. There can be other ways in which you substitute and you overcome a bad habit, a habit that you want to drop. But don't be like the person who says that, okay, I stopped doing X, which was bad, but now I've started doing Y, which is also not that great. The second guideline, students, for us, whenever you find any issue in your life which you don't like, and that's a habit, ask yourself why you do what you do. Simple example, those of you who have spoken about anger, please understand anger usually, if you go to the root, is grief or it is fear. What that means is either there is unexpressed pain in your hearts, which you haven't told anybody, you haven't vented that out, and that gets expressed as anger, and you get triggered really fast, or there is fear, some sort of insecurity, some kind of doubt about the future, about yourself, about life, about circumstances. One of these two things is what manifests as anger. Anger is like what you see out here in the tree picture. It's this part. But when you go here, you realize that the roots are completely different. So ask yourself why we do what we do and why we don't do what we should be doing. So for example, if you ask, why do I get angry? The answer might be, because someone said something bad to me. If I ask again, but why am I getting angry? Because that person said something bad. Then we might say, because my self-respect got hurt or my ego got affected, whatever it may be. Ask yourself again, why? And then you'll start realizing that, okay, maybe I'm being a little too sensitive here. Maybe I need not have reacted. I could have responded. If it is self-respect, I don't have to react. Ego reacts. Self-respect responds. Meaning, you want to correct someone and say, don't talk in that manner to me. That's not correct. There is a way to do it. You don't have to get heated up to do it. So the heat need not be there. The logic can be the same. Even the words can be the same, but that heat of anger need not be there. So ask yourself why repeatedly and go to the root cause of why you do what you do. And you're going to find some very interesting answers here in your own life. The third guideline. Whenever there is a certain habit that you have, that at a certain time, you do a certain action and you feel good, change this part by bringing in a substitute. I'll give you my own example. So in the past, I still love my Indian chai, but of late, this has been the latest habit I've changed. I have actually stopped having Indian chai, not completely, but I don't have it in the morning and I don't have it in mid-morning. So before I used to give myself a well-deserved tea break, and then you feel good about it. You feel relaxed. You feel you have taken care of yourself. Now, it's a rewriting of the software. I don't literally do this. Here, the picture shows that you can actually do a jog or a walk. What I do is I might just take a glass of water and sip on it, or I might have a cup of green tea. Or today, for example, I had a cup of cocoa. and it's unsweetened cocoa, which is supposed to be very good for the brain, and at the same time, it doesn't have anything that is harmful for the body. So it's a switch that happens. So you feel at the time of the cue, you change your routine, you're still getting the reward and you're still feeling good. But now you've brought in a new habit and you've kicked an old habit. I'll give you two examples for this. A grown-up person I was talking to recently said, ma'am, you know, life is really tough. At the end of a long, hard day, when I come home, all I want to do is just sit in front of the television. Now that is this stage. So I said, okay, what else do you think you could do to make you feel happy? So he thought for a while. He's got a small son, 3 years of age. He said, I think if I spend some time telling him stories or maybe helping him with his homework or something, normally my wife does that, but I think that would be good. I said, good, what else? He said, my friends were telling me to come for badminton because now the gyms and all have opened. So I said, okay, very good, what else? He said, you know, before I used to make aeroplane models when I was in college. That was my hobby, but I've stopped all that. Maybe I could do that. So I said, wonderful. See, now you've come up with 3 different alternatives that you could actually do in place of sitting in front of the television, which is bad for your brain, for your eyes, for your health, for the, I would say, the stomach, because you end up becoming a couch potato, and for your family. So you actually got 3 alternatives for better things. So this is what I wanted to share, that this is how we rewrite the software of our brains. 4th guideline, students. When you can't make one major change, make many small, tiny changes. Never make best as the enemy of good. Allow the good to happen. Sometimes we're so particular about things. Okay, I want to fast, or I want to stop eating junk food. And then if we pop in some samosa or something, we tell ourselves, finished. Mera kuch nahi hone wala hai. I have no willpower. I'm a bad person. That's the end of the story. And then we are eating all kinds of junk food. We need to know that is not the thing, the trick here. The strategy is to understand that if across 365 days, every day, I make a 1% change, at the end of the year, this is the kind of difference that has happened. Whereas every day, if I'm going in the other direction and I'm increasing the bad habits, this is actually what I'm left with. So the 1 ends up becoming 0.03. You can see from the graph that makes it clear. We can choose either this path or this path. And students, please note how this graph goes up. So initially, it doesn't look like we're making much progress, but then there is a steep curve because of compounding. And I actually got to see this. I'll share with you all my own instance. So the staff members will be aware that in Westlark, we do yogasan sessions as well. And many of us are into holistic health. So there is one particular asana called Chaturanga Dandasana, better known as the plank pose. And those of you who are aware of what a plank is will know that if you have never done it before, and I'm talking of the basic plank, which is called the tabletop plank, it can really be torture on various parts of the body. And then you start doing it. When I did it for the first time, I was ashamed of myself. I said, what is this, Priya? You know, how you're no good. You've been doing yoga all these years and you can't hold a plank for a minute. Even holding it for 10 seconds was a problem. And then from 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 20 to 25, 25 to 30, and so on and so forth over time, you realize incremental changes make a big difference at the end of the day. So students, this is most reassuring for many of us. It's okay not to make major changes, make small changes, but stick to it. Keep making them, be consistent. Let's come to guideline 5. This is something which comes to us from our scriptures, cultivating repulsion for what we want to drop and having attraction for what we want to do. This is called dosha drishti. Again, I'm going to use this person's example that I just now mentioned a while back, the person who used to smoke. And I asked him, how did you give up smoking? Because he gave it up overnight. He said he used to keep with him some really lurid color printout images of what can happen to the lungs of a smoker. So he had dug into the internet and found some pictures, and he kept that with him every time he felt like reaching for it. So I told him, what about the cigarette packets, right? Because as per the government advisory, those are supposed to have the pictures. He said, no, that packet is really small in size. I can kind of do something else and automatically open the packet and take it out. So students, why am I sharing this particular example with you? The answer is because this aspect of having dosha drishti is very helpful for us. Now, this example was about cigarettes, but what about things which are innocuous, like let's say sweets? Many of us in Westlark know that many of us are fond of chocolates and sweets, and nothing better to end a meal with than maybe a piece of chocolate, a bar of chocolate, some candy, some sort of confectionery. For me, breaking this habit in the last year, 2020, after decades, not years, happened because I cultivated repulsion simply by reading about the cocoa plantations in Africa and how people are held like bonded laborers over there, how they're made to work in sweatshops, how they're made to work in conditions that are absolutely inhuman. They're not paid properly. You have no human rights worth speaking of, etc. And I told myself, really, when our companies are buying the cocoa from these African countries and making their chocolate, this is what I'm supporting. Because when I'm buying a bar of chocolate, I'm actually supporting this. So that helped me give up the habit much more easily. This is what we mean by cultivating repulsion. This one, guideline 6 students, is easy for many of us to relate to. We make our plans. Like, let's say you have decided you're going to study beautifully before your exam. So you've made a nice timetable, okay? And some students do it very beautifully. They actually write it with different colored inks and use a scale to make borders, etc. And then after one or two things which happen, they give up on the timetable. They stop working with the same momentum. So once I have asked a student, a girl, what happened, like when she told me, ma'am, I got off track. She told me, ma'am, I had a fight with my best friend. So I said, and? She said, no, that's the reason. So I said, did your best friend actually stop you from studying? She said, no. I mean, she looked at me in a very surprised way. She said, no, but then, I was hurting. I was angry. So I said, okay, you were angry with your friend and then you have your studies and timetable. The two things are separate, right? So she started thinking for a while and then she started laughing and said, ma'am, actually, that's true. I allowed my mind's upsetness and my agitation to overcome the timetable. So then this was what I asked her. Whatever excuses we make for not doing what we're doing, are they bigger than our dreams? The answer will be no. So I told her, what's going to happen, you think, with your friend? She said, chances are we keep fighting like this twice or thrice a year, we'll patch up again. So I said, see, and then you ended up losing 2 days of your studies. She said, yeah, that's a pity. I said, will that time come back? She said, no. So I said, then. So find out what triggers you into doing something wrong. Catch yourself at that point of time and make sure you don't succumb to that temptation. Guideline 7, this is what I was saying, is taken from the Indian ethos. Just now, for example, we discussed about anger and I said that the roots of anger are typically fear and grief. Triguna will tell us that a person who's prone to anger, and many of us are, in fact, most of us are, we have a lot of rajas in us. We need to consciously choose habits which are sattvic to manage this well and to minimize the tamas. So students, some of you might have heard of these 3 words. For those who haven't, very quickly I'll tell you. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas are 3 very helpful and important words to know, although they are Sanskrit words, but the framework is something universal because it deals with our mind. The thing is, all of us have qualities within us of purity, balance, gratitude, generosity, kindness, forgiveness, love, compassion. That is Sattva. Raja stands for negative motivators of action. So, for example, jealousy, egoism, hypocrisy, anger, hatred, ego, comparison. When we say, oh, I've got to study well because I need to put down someone else and I need to get more marks than him or her, that's Rajas. Tamas is chalta hai, doesn't make a difference. Complacence, sloth, laziness, that is tamas. What we need to do is reduce the tamas in our life and manage the rajas in our life, control this part, reduce this part by consciously increasing sattva. Now, how do we consciously increase sattva? Simply by getting smart about what habits we bring into the day. So for example, what time are we getting up in the morning? If you're getting up any time after, say, 7 a.m. in the morning, we have already gone into this category. So many of us in the pandemic, when I used to talk to young people, I would hear of people waking up at 12 noon, 12:30 noon, going to sleep at 2 or 3 in the night, and then waking up after 9 hours or something like that. Completely lopsided circadian cycle. What happens there is our entire body mind, our endocrine system, our hormonal system, everything goes out of tilt, everything goes out of alignment. And you don't have to take our words for it, because you're going to say, okay, ma'am is now beginning to sound like our parents. Just read up. 4 years back, the Nobel Prize in Medicine went to US doctors who said the same thing that in India was said in the Charak Samhita 3,500 years ago, that every cell in the body is aligned with the sun. So therefore, what we call as body clock needs to match the 24-day-night cycle, which is what we call the circadian rhythm. So many of you may have heard of this term circadian rhythm. If you haven't, I'm going to suggest read up on it, because one of the smartest and easiest ways to increase your sattva is to start by getting up early. But remember, students, if you're used to getting up at 9 and you say, okay, from tomorrow I'll get up at 6 in the morning and do my exercise and pranayam, and I'll help out at home and I'll sit for my online classes, not going to be sustained after a few days. It calls for enormous willpower. We are not all Swami Vivekanandas. That's why we have his name for our college and for our entire educational society. For us, what we need to do is, if I'm waking up at 9, I make it 8:30, then I make it 8:15. Maybe I make it 8 o'clock or 7:45, and then so on and so forth. And some of us might think, okay, do I need to do something for 21 days? Then it becomes a habit. The answer is, for different people, different things work. Surprise, surprise. Some habits you can change this way. I stopped having sugar in my tea years back. It was overnight. One evening, I just didn't have sugar, and that was it. After that, I've never gone back to it. Some other habits call for consistent efforts, because the neural network of the brain, you cannot predict in what way it is made and how much time it's going to take us to change it. But is it possible? Yes, it is possible. What are other sattvic habits we can have? Simple strategy. 5 minutes a day of pranayam. Every day you're given 1,440 minutes. Just do alternate nostril breathing. That's it for 5 minutes before you sit for your online class. Believe me when I say, try it for 7 days and see. Your alertness is better. Your concentration will be better. Your focus will be better. You will make less mistakes. You will remember more. You will retain more. And it's not only from the exams point of view that I'm talking about, but your learning, your assimilation. As we say in Hindi, pustak mein sab kuch, mastak mein kuch nahi. That shouldn't happen. So sattvic habits of this kind, waking up at a certain time, doing pranayam, making sure you're actually doing some sort of exercise, etc., reading good things. If you're a believer in God, praying. If you're not a believer, no problem. You can do affirmations, visualizations. When you talk and have conversations within family and friends, make sure they're positive ones. That is sattva. If you believe in writing a diary or a journal, or if you believe in drawing, for example, creating artwork, that is sattva. Anything creative is sattvic in nature. But if anything is created for the wrong reasons, because you're trying to put someone else down, that is rajas. So be careful of this, students. Very obvious. So I'll just quickly mention this. One of the nicest ways and smartest ways to be consistent about new habits is to get support from family and friends. Once you make them your coach, and once you tell them that I need your help for something, they'll make sure that they support you. I'll give you an example. I was once working with some students of one of our colleges, and one of our girl students had this habit of using basically in every sentence many times. That was what we call a filler. So I asked her, how do you plan on changing this? She said, ma'am, I have created a good idea. I have told all my friends that if you find me using the word basically, I'm going to give you 2 rupees each time you hear me and you catch me using that word. And then that money that we collect, I treat them in the canteen with whatever food. And this is, of course, pre-pandemic I'm talking about. So I laughed and said, okay, last month's canteen bill, how much did you end up paying? So she also laughed and said that last month it was higher, but this month already I've become very careful. See, the thing is, people around us will be very happy to not just give us advice, but actually help us move towards the better. And I'm talking of well-wishers. So get support. Most of us will be aware, students, that when something happens to trigger us, let's say anger, someone said something bad to you, between that incident and your reaction to it, there is a thought which comes in and there is an emotion. A thought could come in, how could that person talk to me like that? And the emotion that comes in is anger or sadness or fear or a mixture of the three. That is it that I'm feeling threatened? That makes me feel vulnerable. All of these things become a bundle. And the next thing you know, we have said something very bad. And then later on, we have to say sorry. If it's a family member, sometimes we feel very guilty. we realize we have overreacted. Catch yourself in this stage before you actually do this. And this is a split second, students. When I say catch yourself, understand we're not talking of physically catching yourself, we're talking of the mental level, which means our thoughts are lightning fast, but then the intellect is also lightning fast. So if the mind can go at a certain speed, the intellect can go even faster than that. Again, this is science telling us, okay? It's not just my words. So catch yourself there, and then you're going to be good. This I've already mentioned, so I'll take us ahead. Whatever new habit you want, use an existing habit as a launch pad. If you want to fit in 5 minutes of pranayam, very easy to do that. Just ask yourself, what is my one morning habit which I'm consistent with, and tag it with that. Yes, don't let it be checking the phone, because that is not going to be a good thing. In fact, talking about that particular habit, so I'm sure the student who's raised it is not the only person who's in that category. I know a lot of people, especially during the pandemic, who have become very much hooked onto their devices. So in our home and in many places, we follow what we call a mobile hygiene policy. What that means is, it's a little challenging. 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., no devices. Now, the 8 p.m. part can be challenging for some. And of course, there are days where there could be exceptions. There could be emergencies, for example, or God forbid, in the family, there could be a need because of which you need to access, but nothing that is inessential. So no WhatsApp, no Facebook, no Instagram, nothing of social media. Because as all of us know, you're like Alice in Wonderland falling down the rabbit hole when it comes to these things. You start off by thinking, let me just check my messages, and the next thing you know, 1 hour has gone by, and you look at the clock and think, oh shucks, 1 hour is gone. That is not what should happen to us. Very, very crucial, students. Be patient with yourself. I can't emphasize how important this is for all of us, because we are going to get derailed from time to time. So just get back on track and tell yourself it's fine to make little bits of progress as long as you're making progress. And if you're static, ask yourself why you're static. If you're afraid, like we said, greet your fear. And most important, appreciate yourself for every step of progress. Let's take a moment to read this. I really like this picture and I wanted to share it with you all today. How I wish every child could be told right from a young age, when he or she learns to read, that put this up somewhere, maybe on a piece of paper or framed up somewhere, or maybe on a little post-it, stick it up on your mirror or somewhere where you can see it. Remind yourself you're a great person and pat yourself for every step of progress you make along the journey. This becomes your inner smile. And then the smile on your face is matched by the smile in your heart. And you're being authentic. You have integrity. It's not that you're thinking something and saying something else. There is no gap. The two are aligned. That is how we make progress. So to conclude, take a look. Don't make too many changes, which is why when I asked you all to share in the chat box about the habit you want to change, I said talk about one habit. Second, understand that derailments do happen. I'll just show you a little prop that I have here with me. So you may be able to see this on the camera here. This is a book I have, a notebook, where I've been tracking since last year. You can see the pages. I started by tracking initially my walking metrics. So things such as the pace stride, the calories burned, my speed in kilometers per hour, then how many steps I took, what was my heartbeat rate, etc. So I started that way. And then over time, when I realized I had reached some sort of a stability, I changed it and I started including more things. So for example, my pranayam, my yogasan, when I'm doing meditation in the evening, all of that. And on the days when I do everything, I call it a grand slam and I give myself a little smiley. So it's like how when we were in school and we used to get motivated by the teacher who gave us a smiley or a star, and we felt so happy, and we'd come rushing back and show our mothers or our parents or our friends, see, I got a star today, I got a smiley today. The same way, this sort of prop is very useful. Now, how it helps me is, I'll tell you, there are days when I can't do much because either, God forbid, I've not been well, or there has been something else which has claimed most of my time. I have learned over time to understand this is going to be a part of the journey. So don't get disappointed and stop doing the good things just because temporarily there's been a glitch, and glitches will happen. Understand glitches are a part of life and just get back on track. And give yourself good mind food every day so that you stay inspired. Talk to good people, read good things. When you're listening to songs, listen to happy songs. Don't just listen to sad songs. Listen to things which keep you upbeat. Sadness, we don't have to go out seeking it. It's anyway there. Happiness is also anywhere there, but happiness is more subtle. So in our scriptures, for example, that's why Anandamaya Kosh is the subtlest of the 5 koshas. Anyway, we won't go into that, but understand happiness is something fundamental to us, but it is subtle, which is why we have to train ourselves to tap into it. We don't have to look for it. We have to know it is in our nature, and we just have to tap into it. Willpower is something which gets better and better as we use it. So right after this session is over, students, for example, if you tell yourself, all right, I'm going to be studying today whatever my teachers taught me from morning. If you're able to do that, you have just added to your willpower bank balance. If tomorrow also you do that, again, you're making that stronger. So you're actually creating new neural networks that way. In fact, the word samskara comes from that. And this echoes actually what Professor Meenal Gandhi had shared so beautifully at the start of the session. In fact, the source of this quote, as well as what our Mahatma Gandhi had quoted, is the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which says that what we think decides our actions decide our habits decide our character, and our character decides our destiny. So how we think, therefore, becomes our destiny. It starts with the thought, and habit comes somewhere in the intermediate level, which means we've got to tweak the mind, which is why today's students, we focus so much on the mind. And finally, we want to tell you the only thing you must think of, not compare yourself with others, not to have any sort of comparison with others, just be a better you today than what you were one day before. So yesterday, who was I? How much, let's say, management did I have on my anger? Or how focused was I? Or how dynamic was I? Am I doing a little better today? If yes, just pat yourself on the back. And if not, tell yourself, I'm going to do it. Don't give that up, because sometimes habits do take a while to change. So on that note, we're going to thank you so much for your patience, and we're going to be concluding the session. We have, I think, excuse me, just a couple of minutes of time. Let me just stop the sharing. If anyone has a question, you could raise that in the chat. Okay, so let me just go to the chat. Okay. Okay, so Bhavisha, I'm just seeing right now what you had put up in the chat quite some time back, building optimistic approach towards all negative events. We call this, Bhavisha, in psychology, there's a term for this, we call it reframing. What reframing means, it's like, suppose, let's say I show you this picture. I have this diary with me here, this notebook. You can see here's a lantern, and the frame happens a certain way. But let's say I wanted to focus here instead on something that looks to me like a lighthouse. So I will create a frame around this. That is called reframing. So that is one of the key training things that we give ourselves, Bhavisha. I'm sure there are others also who have this sort of thinking. Learn to see the positive by shifting your focus on something away from what is negative. And that's again easier said than done. Give yourself also time to vent about what you're frustrated about. Huh? See, this talk about positivity and optimism doesn't mean that when the mind is sad, we don't allow the mind to express itself. We do. You can talk about it to a friend. You can rave and rant about it to someone who's close to you. You can write in a diary. If you're a believer in God, you can sit in front of God and get angry. You can weep. You can do what you need to do in order to express the emotion. But understand, the emotion is like a wave on the ocean. You are the ocean. You're not the wave. Get that very, very clear, and you'll find it easy then to switch tracks. Okay, so Priya, you've raised a very interesting question. You've asked about gaming and how that is a stress buster. And I can understand, I can see your point of view. I can also see your parents' point of view. They are likely to be worried because they're going to find that this is something that could become an addiction. So Priya, what you could do is, A, make sure that whatever you're doing in terms of gaming for stress busting, you have certain time horizons that you take care of. And if you're doing it as a stress buster only, meaning you're not a professional gamer and you don't want to be a professional gamer, please make sure that you're taking enough breaks, you're taking care of your eyes. You're also doing things which don't involve a screen, because the blue light is said to be very, very bad from various perspectives. Nowadays, a lot is being talked about it. Help your parents understand that you are responsible and intelligent enough, and that is through your actions. See, finally, actions speak louder than words. You can tell them, I'm taking care of myself, but if you're not actually doing anything which displays that, then they are going to be worried and they will tell you to stop gaming. So if you're doing, let's say, exercises regularly, if you take care of your neck and make sure your neck is not constricted when you're sitting and gaming, if you're making sure you've got a blue light screen on your PC, if you're making sure you're not doing gaming beyond half an hour at a time, and then you're getting up and taking at least a 10-minute break, if you make sure your grades are good, if you make sure you're doing other things in the outside world which are more holistic, then I'm sure they won't have a problem. So let your actions speak. So this is what we call being intelligent and being very adult about it. So be very rational about it and understand where they're coming from, because they are obviously going to be concerned for you. That's quite understandable, but I can understand your frustration too. So that's it's okay. This is a classic thing, Priya. You're not the only one here, but like I said, let your actions get better. Okay. Priya, if you're doing this, what you've put up on the chat, I think that's excellent. Just do a little bit more of physical self-care, maybe. So for example, for the eyes, I mentioned there are certain asanas that you can look up, eye asanas from the Yoga Institute. Online, you get a lot of things. Get your family also enrolled into that. Do neck-based postural exercises. Okay. Try and restrict your screen time in the evening, because that actually interferes with the melatonin secretion in the body that is linked to insulin and thyroid hormones. And that gets into dangerous territory, because if you're doing gaming late in the evening or at night, it takes at least 2 hours for the body to calm down, because the blue light otherwise makes us feel as if it's still daytime. So the body is not able to move to the night, which means your night sleep quality is poor, which means next day you're sluggish. So Priya, it's great that you're disciplined. It's great that you're following a schedule. But additionally, I would say take care of these aspects of physical health. Communicate that to your parents and demonstrate. Don't just communicate, demonstrate that. Then it's going to be fine. And Bhavisha, you're most welcome. Let me just see what has come up. Vikrant, what you can do is, I'm so happy to find what you've written in the chat. You can just let us know if you have any specific suggestion to make for any future topic that y'all would like. So this was a module we've developed very, very recently. And like I shared with your faculty, I just gave it a makeover very recently. As recent as today, I was working on it till the lunchtime because I wanted to make something new and fresh. Vikrant, you can give suggestions for more topics that you would want. Either myself or our counselors who we have will be taking more sessions for the students. Okay, so, okay, Priya, very good to see that. Very, very good to see that. If you're doing these things, then I think there shouldn't be much of a problem. What you can do is maybe sit down with them, chat and communicate. Make them see what you are gaining by way of gaming being a stress buster. Ask them what they fear for you. And they will realize when they go through that exercise of communicating that maybe their fears are just unfounded, because you are intelligent and smart enough. You're taking care of your studies, you're taking care of your physical health. So just have a very clear communication, which is at a very, I would say, keep the heat out of it. Because otherwise too much of emotions comes into the picture and then all our logic goes for a toss. Okay, you're most welcome, Vikrant. Okay, yeah, yes, Priya, most welcome, most welcome. Any other questions, please do put it up on chat. We have time for another last question if anyone has a question. If there are no questions, we're simply going to thank you and take your leave. And Anushka, if you could please share with them the feedback form link. Okay, so I think Shweta ma'am has already shared it. Yes, so the link has come up. We are very particular in Westlark that we make sure we take students' feedback in order to understand what is it that worked for you. Do you feel such sessions should be held? Like I told you, there's a very new module we've created. If you think such modules should be done for other students as well, please let us know. If you think they're really worthwhile, that in 1 hour, yes, we're getting certain tips and strategies, please let us know. Yes, so Shweta ma'am has reminded there are 2 feedback forms you need to fill, one for the institute, one for Westlark. Sorry, students, it won't take long. It may take you just literally 2 minutes, but it's important. If you feel that such sessions should be held, today our data is very important to us. We have to gather feedback which validates what we're doing so that way we can then fine tune, we can make things even better. So I'm going to be thanking all of you for your patience. You've been extremely sweet listeners, I would say. And from the questions that you've asked and the answers you had shared initially, I know that all of you have a high level of emotional maturity. Work with that. Simply work with that. I'm sure things are going to be good. And as we conclude, I would like to ask students, out of all the guidelines that I've shared, please think of just one guideline maybe that you want to start implementing from today. One habit or one guideline. You choose which one. Either a habit that you want to change or a guideline that you want to bring in. Okay? So on that note, we're going to take your leave. And can we ask the students to just get your cameras on for a moment so that we can take a quick screenshot? Anushka, can we just request everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so students, let's just come on screen for just 10 seconds. Maybe it'll be good to do that. And Anushka ma'am will take a very quick screenshot. Faculty members, so nice to see you all. So happy to see you all. I've been really missing seeing all the familiar faces. You know, it's so wonderful to see that. And students, you all are the reason why we're there. Oh, it's so nice to see you. Anushka, quick, let's have a quick. Anushka, your camera's off. That happens to us sometimes. We've got tech glitches as well, but that's normal. There you are, Anushka. You're looking so radiant. Come on camera. All girl students. Yes, there we are. Done, Anushka? Great. Thank you so much, students. Thank you. God bless you all.
Priya ma'am, excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, just give me 2 minutes for formally ending up the session by vote of thanks. May I, ma'am?
Absolutely, please.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. It's been a great privilege to have been asked to extend vote of thanks to the one whom always I love to hear. And as soon as I get to know that speaker is Priya ma'am, I just get ready for some self-care thoughts or a healthier way to approach my mind. As rightly said by Stephen Covey, our character is basically a composite of our habits because they are consistent, often unconscious patterns. They constantly daily express our daily characters. Dear students, your habit speaks volume of your nature and indirectly predict your success or failure in life. The same proves true by our speaker, Priya Mukherjee ma'am. Ma'am, you have presented the topic in a thought-provoking manner and also presented valuable and constructive solutions to manage our habits. I, on behalf of VS College of Arts, Science and Commerce, extend a heartfelt thanks to Veselar, Priya ma'am, and Anushka madam for always extending their guidance and support. Priya ma'am, we are really grateful for the generous tips which are given by you for coming up with the fears or maybe smart way of working, efficiency with the time usage, conscious and deliberate choice of using the acronym ROTI and SMART, that one which I really like to know. I, on behalf of my all students, ma'am, assure you that we all will definitely follow the guidelines shared by you, like ways of converting dreams into reality, doing pranayams, introspecting why do someone do certain things, tiny changes to be made every day, then building enormous willpower, reading good things, or good thoughts, and at the end, appreciating ourselves. So these are the few of the guidelines, ma'am, we are definitely going to follow every day. Moreover, I must appreciate your extreme holistic knowledge and command over Indian epics, which is really a cause of motivation for many of us. Thank you so very much, ma'am, for always being with us whenever we are asking for your need. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. As we come to the end of the expert talk, I request our students to please fill in the feedback form. The links are already being shared. There are 2 links. Students, please make it sure that you all fill in both the links. Ma'am, really thank you so much. And the whole Veselar team, I'm really thankful. And on behalf of convener Dr. Shweta Patil and the entire DLLE team, this is Department of Lifelong and Learning Extension Program. We are one of the department from University of Mumbai, and we are functioning here into Vivekanand College. So on behalf of whole LLE team, ma'am, we really extend a warm thankful to the entire team. Ma'am, thank you so much for always being with us. Thank you.
Most welcome, ma'am, and thank you for giving us this opportunity. It is such a pleasure to have this interaction with you all and work. As we say, tali ek haath se nahi bajti hai. We always
Yes, ma'am.
maintain that. When that support is there, that encouragement is there, the enthusiasm is there, then our work also becomes what it should be. So our pleasure, truly, truly our pleasure. It is a sacred privilege for us to have worked with you all today, and students wish you all the very best. You just heard your professor say so many things that she has been able to just pick up. I hope that all of us will be able to walk away with at least a few things in our minds, which we'll start implementing. So on that note, we'll take your leave. Thank you. Have a very good evening and be happy.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, ma'am.
Most welcome. Most welcome. Goodbye.
Thank you,
Goodbye.
Pia ma'am and team at Whistler.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
The set of students are waiting, so we wish to interact
Sure.
soon with you. But we are a bit busy with the autonomy visit, so we'll get back. I mean, we'll talk to Anishka ma'am and get it done.
Sure. Absolutely. We look forward to it. Thank you, ma'am.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Pia
Bye.
ma'am.
Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Please leave, students. Please fill up the feedback forms. I hope all of you have filled up the feedback forms. That will help us arrange more talks for you. And we also need to give the feedback to Westla for them to make the appropriate changes if needed. Sadhna, I don't know who had begun the recording. I'll just try stopping it. But I don't know where it will go. So it's going to Anushka ma'am's. That's fine.